WFLA Now will begin momentarily. WFLA Now will begin momentarily. Streaming live on WFLA Now, powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY. Here's JB Biunno.
We're getting closer to the truth on what happened to Gabby Petito. The Teton County Coroner calling what some would call an unexpected press conference to announce an autopsy ruling in the 22-year-old's homicide. Hey there, everybody. JB Biunno here with you live on WFLA Now. Getting here live a little bit earlier than we normally would here because we want to give everybody here the opportunity to, of course, file into the YouTube stream here. We'll be live on Facebook here momentarily. Great to have Justin Checker, Masa Saidi, who, of course, you've been following here on WFLA.com with all their various reporting over the last several weeks on Gabby Petito and on Brian Laundrie. This is going to be a difficult day for many. A difficult day for many, to say the least. And we do not know exactly what we're going to be learning here in about 24 minutes' time when the Teton County Coroner announces an autopsy ruling in the homicide death of Gabby Petito. We don't know if we're going to get, Masa, a little bit of information. We don't know if we're going to get maybe a medium amount of information. But I think one thing that we can say for certain is we're not going to get a tremendous amount of information here. We're just going to get a little bit of insight here into what happened to Gabby Petito in Wyoming.
Yeah, that's right. We expect, this is a coroner, we expect to learn, possibly the cause of death. I just shot over some questions to Dr. Brent Blue. I believe that he is holding this news conference alone, not in conjunction with the FBI and federal authorities, but we are waiting to triple check that fact. We just asked the following questions to Dr. Brent Blue. What is the cause of death? In addition to cause of death, what other types of potential injuries were present? Were there any signs that could indicate signs of struggle? Any injuries, forgive me, that could indicate signs of struggle? Were there any injuries to her body in various stages of healing that would indicate potential prior incidents of violence? What was the time and the date of death? Are we closer to knowing that now? Was he able to narrow that down as he conducted this autopsy? Were there any signs that the body had been moved or transported? Or do we believe whatever happened, as you remember, was it September 21st, Justin? That
they ruled it a homicide on September 21st.
Thank you so much.
2 days after they found her body on the Sunday the 19th. At the Bridger Teton National Forest in Wyoming.
That's right. And we also asked, as part of the autopsy, did you run different DNA analysis to determine any potential suspects? Like, was there anything under her fingernails, for example? Completely just an example of what we could find out today. I asked, did you find any DNA that did not belong to Gabby Petito on the body of Gabby Petito? Did you find any sign of bruising on or around her neck? Was there any evidence in her brain that she had experienced traumatic brain injury? So we are just trying to, we can't ask those questions as the news conference is happening. We had to submit our questions beforehand. So those were the questions that I had. And I know, Justin, you're up to date on that timeline.
Yeah, like we just said, obviously this is a lot has happened since September 11th. We know that's the day that Gabby's mother reported her missing in New York. And JB, as I talked about during one of our streams after they located her body, that 8 days later, on that Sunday, the 19th, her remains were found in the forest in Wyoming. Then, as Masa mentioned, 2 days later, the coroner came out and said this is a homicide, and also positively identified the body as being Gabby Petito. Now here we are about a month later. This, like you said, JB, kind of an unexpected press conference from the coroner to reveal what he has learned in the last month about how this young woman died.
I remember when, of course, we were on those streams, as Justin is referencing, right after Gabby Petito's remains were identified. Of course, the body found there in Teton County in Wyoming. And I remember saying at the time that we're going to get, of course, preliminary autopsy results and then final autopsy results. But then I had a lot of experts in the federal investigation community, law enforcement experts, who told me, JB, not so fast. What's likely going to happen is the FBI is going to prevent any details pertaining to the autopsy or pertaining to the toxicology report, any of those details. They're going to put a lid on it, and they're going to clamp it down real fast.
That's why today's a surprise. I think that
this is a surprise. I'm at home last night, and I'm cooking last night to take my mind just off of everything, and I'm literally chopping carrots, and all of a sudden I see on my phone this announcement come in, and I cannot fully grasp. I'm thinking, my first gut instinct was, just like the Stephen Bertolino press conference, is this going to get canceled the following day? Was this a procedural mistake that the Teton County Coroner's office in Wyoming said that they're going to release the results, and then the FBI is going to come in at the last moment and say, no, this is going to compromise an ongoing federal investigation, and they're not going to have this press conference. But here we are. The time is now 2:10 Eastern. We're 20 minutes away from it getting underway here. We're going to bring you the Zoom here live here, folks. We know that a lot of folks are joining us from their vehicles, just listening in the car. We know there's a lot of folks who have casted this stream to their televisions at home or in their workplace. We're staying here with you live. We'll take you right over to the Zoom call as soon as it gets underway. I'm sure it's going to be one of the most watched Zoom calls in the world here this week. But a surprise, Justin, nonetheless, and Masa, you as well, just a surprise here because, again, this is at the center of an ongoing federal investigation.
Yeah, I was just speaking with Dr. Shelley Wagers from the Department of Criminology at USF, and I'm going to have to hop off in about 3 minutes because I have my Zoom interview with her, Justin, before this news conference starts. But was just getting some insight from her. This was a surprise. You know, the FBI is in charge of this investigation. They have told us nothing, confirmed nothing. Every time you ask a question, they say it's part of the ongoing investigation. And what Dr. Wagers told me was they don't want to release something that could harm the investigation or that could potentially hurt the building of the case of the criminal trial down the road. So they do want to, Justin, withhold key pieces of information. That's how they can determine later on if somebody comes forward and if they say they have information or if they're interviewing someone that they think is a suspect. That's how they determine if this person actually knows something, if they know what happened, the details of it. That's how they determine what's credible and what's not credible. So this is definitely a surprise, JB. I'm going to be live at 4, 5, and 6 here on Channel 8 and Tampa for you guys if you want to follow my reporting. I do have to hop off.
Yeah, Masa, everybody. You'll find her latest report, the one that she filed yesterday on WFLA.com. I tweeted it out last night and the WFLA app, the report about Cassie Laundrie and some of the threats that have been made to Cassie Laundrie, her husband, and her children, kidnapping and death threats being made. That report right now is on WFLA.com. That's from our own WFLA 8 on your side investigator, Masa Saidi. Masa, we'll see you tonight on WFLA.
Thank you so much for having me join you, and we will bring you all the details today. And a very sad day for the Petito family, so our thoughts are with them. Thanks, guys.
8 on your sides, Masa Saidi, folks, back here with you live with Justin Shecker. You can use hashtag HeyJB. You can use hashtag HeyJustin. We'll be able to feature some of your comments here. And as a reminder, we are now about 18 or so minutes away. We're live right now on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, as well as the WFLA YouTube page. Facebook is, we can go live a little bit later on Facebook because it gets pushed out to people more quickly on Facebook. YouTube, it takes about half an hour to build an audience. So we're here live with you because we don't want you to miss the opening moments here of this Zoom call. So many live streams, people file in as soon as that Zoom call or that press conference begins, and you miss the opening sentence, and you're like, what gives? But doing it this way, we can allow everybody filing in here to listen to the very first words from Dr. Brent Blue, as I understand it.
Dr.
Right?
Brent Blue, the Teton County Coroner. I just want to say Massa listed off a lot of great questions, but JB, as you know, this is going to be watched by reporters here in the Florida area, the New York market, nationally. Obviously, any reporters out there in Wyoming, in that part of the country.
Hold on one second there, Justin. I just want to. Okay. No, I was just listening in. I'm sorry, continue. I was just listening in some of the Zoom chatter here because the Zoom call is getting launched
started.
here.
And you'll see there'll be reporters from, again, like I just said, all across the country, national outlets from New York. Obviously, we're watching closely here.
There it is. I mean, for what it's worth, it's just any other Zoom call. But we'll be watching this very, very closely here. I'm sorry, Justin,
this is probably going to be the most watched moment since when the FBI came out the day they found her body. I mean, we all remember watching that press conference, JB, and how the emotion you saw in the FBI agents when he announced the remains were found consistent with her description. Obviously, today's a little bit different, doing it a Zoom call, again, like I said, because you have media from across the country that has closely been following this story, both here in Florida and back in New York, where she's from, Long Island area, and obviously all the reporters out west who've done a great job tracking this story as well.
One piece of news that I think that I can share from some communication that I have had with the Petito and with the Schmidt family is that that they have received this information ahead of time, that this isn't something that they are going to be watching and learning here as well, as you would expect. And that's not uncommon in law enforcement. Of course, they're going to give a family information in a non-media setting, so it's not as if Gabby's mom and father, it's not as if the family is going to be watching this press conference.
They don't need to watch with the rest of us. I
don't think
that's the appropriate thing to. We 100% agree with that.
And you know what? Now, I want to point this out here. We have no idea what kind of details we're about to learn here in this autopsy. It's called an autopsy ruling here from the Teton County Coroner. We don't know what details are going to be released. We don't know if they're going to be surface level details or if they're going to be extremely specific. And we want to just put this out here for you folks. If this is distressing for you, and there's some folks that have been emotionally impacted by this story, if this is distressing for you, you don't have to watch. You can believe me, the headline will be all over the place later, and all the information, all the quotes will come out later. You don't have to, but I know that right now we're live for 45,000 people on YouTube. I know that if you're here early, it's because you want answers, you want the truth, you want the facts, and this is going to be after a period of Justin of maybe 4 or 5 days where things really quieted down over the last several days. Yeah. We're finally going to be getting some concrete information here from, of course, one of the most credible sources of information here in Teton County. Yes, the medical examiner. Yep. Yes.
We should mention the other big news today, JB, and I know from the family visiting this weekend, we know that the city of Northport has now packed up that beautiful memorial for her on the Northport Green. We know the hot weather, the rain might have, done a little damage to some of those beautiful items in the pictures. We know that has all been packed up. I know Allison Henning, our colleague, she is down there in Northport, and they're looking to doing a permanent memorial at some point for Gabby. We know those items that just members of the community left at that green are going to be packed up and sent back to the Petito and Schmidt families. You can only imagine how much that meant to her family to see the outpouring of love and support at that memorial. So that's the other news happening today, in addition to this autopsy press conference. And just as we build our audience, JB, again, just to go through the timeline, if you don't mind, real quick, just to set the stage where we are.
Absolutely. And I think what we can do here as well, and what I'll do here for you folks, is try to show this to you here. We do have a timeline for you on WFLA.com. If I hit a few, if I hit a few buttons here, everybody just give me a moment, and I think we absolutely can show this here to you. Here is. Wait, where is it? Is it there?
Should be right there on
WFLA.com, and I don't have it in front of me.
Well, as you start pulling up, I'll just run through some key dates in this investigation. Sure. We know back on July 2nd, JB, Gabby Petito and her fiancé Brian Laundrie departed for this van life cross-country road trip. They posted pictures at numerous national parks out in the Midwest, out west, Colorado, Wyoming, Utah. We know we've talked a lot about August 12th, JB, the day with the Moab City police response after a witness said he observed a male striking a female. We know eventually they did not press charges. They separated the couple for one night. But we've obviously seen the body camera footage, which was also difficult to watch, JB, just seeing how distraught and worked up Gabby was in that situation. We later learned, confirmed from the Laundrie family attorney, Stephen Bertolino, that from August 17th to the 23rd, Brian actually flew back here to Florida. We know also from court documents, piecing the timeline together, August 27th, that is the last day, sadly, that Gabby Petito was seen. And when we did the press conference a few weeks ago, JB, they said between August 27th and August 30th, that was when the FBI was still looking for witnesses who may have seen the couple at the Bridger Teton National Forest, where her body was later found. September 1st, that is the day Northport police tell us that Brian Laundrie returned to his family's home there in Northport. The van license tag was picked up on a license plate reader in the morning coming back into the city. So piecing the timeline, JB, September 6th through the 7th, we know the Laundrie family had a camping reservation at Fort DeSoto Park that is about 75 miles north of the family home in Pinellas County. We've talked a lot about that visit, who knew what and when the family went camping there. Then September 11th, JB, that's when this really started to become a major story when Nicole Schmidt reported her daughter missing to police in in Suffolk County, New York. We know 8 days later, JB, September 19th, the remains of Gabby Petito were found in the Bridger Teton National Forest. 2 days later, the medical examiner ruled this a homicide and positively identified her remains. And here we are today in mid-October, JB, waiting to see what more we learn about how sadly this young woman died.
Again, that full timeline is on WFLA.com. And also, too, shout out to some of the folks on social media, the Gabby Petito subreddit on Reddit. They have assembled a really accurate timeline there as well. I mean, community members coming together here to piece together the timeline here, because the more that we have on the timeline, the more we have an idea as to what happened here with Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie there on their cross-country road trip and what went wrong. So let's explain how this is going to work here, folks. We're currently live in 3 places: WFLA.com, the WFLA app, and WFLA's YouTube page. Let's just get an updated audience count. So we're live for about 60,000 or so people on YouTube here. How this is going to work here is we are going to, in a moment here, begin the Facebook live stream, so that we're live across all the platforms that we would be live on. I believe that our team here as well behind the scenes is also activating a Twitter live stream here as well. And what we're going to do is, of course, we're going to continue to get closer to 2:30 Eastern. And when the presser is over, when the Zoom call is over, we're still here with you live to kind of discuss what we have learned and where we go from here and how this impacts things going forward as far as the Justice for Gabby cause. So we're going to be here with you live now and of course, after the press conference there by the Teton County Coroner. But what we're going to do now here, everybody, we're going to take a 60-second break, and this allows us to bring in our WFLA Now Facebook Live audience back in 60 seconds here on WFLA Now.
WFLA Now will begin momentarily. WFLA Now will begin momentarily. Streaming live on WFLA Now, powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY. Here is JB Biunno.
We are moments away from answers. Answers in the homicide of Gabby Petito, the 22-year-old who was found dead in Wyoming after her fiancé returned home to Florida from a cross-country road trip without her and then vanished off the face of the earth. Hey there, everybody. JB Biunno here with you live on WFLA Now. Great to have Justin Shecker here with us of WFLA News Channel 8 here, your NBC station, 8 on your side here in Tampa, Florida, in the Tampa Bay area, of course, that we serve here, serving our viewers here on WFLA Now and across our various platforms here. Speaking of platforms, engaging a new digital audience here now. Hello to our Facebook Live audience here. We're now officially live on all platforms. And Justin, we are now about 6.5 minutes away from the scheduled start time of the Teton County Coroner Coroner, calling a press conference, Dr. Brent Blue, to announce an autopsy ruling in the homicide death of 22-year-old Gabby Petito.
Like we've been talking about, JB, this is kind of unexpected. We know this remains a federal FBI investigation at this point. I have my Twitter notifications set in case the FBI Denver office were to put any additional information out. But at this point, this is the coroner's office in Teton County, Wyoming, coming out to reveal whatever his office was able to uncover through the examination of Gabby Petito's body after her death. Like we've talked about some key dates leading up to today. September 11th, that Saturday evening, her mom reported her missing to the police in New York. 8 days later, JB, they found her body in the Bridger-Teton National Forest on the eastern boundary of the Grand Teton Range there. And then 2 days later, this coroner's office told us this is a homicide, but the cause of death was not released at this time. And here we are now on October 12th, eagerly awaiting this press conference at 2:30 Eastern Time.
So I get home last night, and it was my turn to cook. And I'm in my kitchen, and I'm literally I was saying this to our YouTube audience here a short time ago. I'm literally chopping carrots, and my phone just goes crazy. With of course the announcement that the Teton County Coroner has called a press conference for an autopsy ruling, that it was going to be held via Zoom, and I could not believe it, just because of the amount of federal experts, law enforcement experts, that have said repeatedly, over and over again, that they don't expect there to be a cause of death, or they expect to be a press conference in the Teton County Medical Examiner, from the Teton County Medical Examiner's office, simply because of the fact that this is an ongoing federal investigation. And I was trying to wrap my brain around it. I have some notes here that I'm going to read here for our audience here, as we're, again, about 5 minutes away from 2:30 when that press conference is set to begin. So here, we'll show that to you here live here, folks. Dr. Brent Blue standing by here. This is the Zoom call there. You can see him in the way bottom left-hand portion of your screen here. You can see that he's on mute, just waiting for the top of the half hour here to get underway. We are also live here for you folks from, yes, outside of the Laundrie home here. We do not know what kind of reaction that there's going to be here in the aftermath of this press conference here, keeping a close eye here, of course, on outside of the Laundrie home here in Northport, Florida. But as I was thinking about this, Justin, I was thinking about this a lot last night. And here's basically what I came to. I came to a conclusion that there has been one constant throughout this entire story, with Gabby Petito, with Brian Laundrie, with him being missing, with her homicide. And the one constant is this: it's to expect the unexpected at every turn. At every turn. The reason why this story has drawn the international audience that it has, in my opinion, of course, is Gabby, but also because at every turn, just strange oddities occur. Expect the unexpected, and here's what I mean by that as far as this entire process, okay? Brian Laundrie returns home September 1st without his fiancée after a cross-country road trip across the country, and he returns home to Florida in her van. That was unexpected. Joe Petito, Nicole Schmidt, try to reach out to Brian, try to reach out to Brian's parents, try to find out where's Gabby, and they don't return their phone calls, don't return their text messages. They cannot get a hold of Chris, Roberta, and Brian Laundrie. Unexpected. Police say they know where Brian Laundrie is in that press conference. Northport police say we know where he is. And then
the next day, reported
vanishes. He vanishes, or he had vanished at that point. Reported missing. That too, unexpected. The public and the media on the front lawn that night, when it was just a complete zoo there on the front lawn between media and people in the Northport community, that too was unexpected. Chris and Roberta Laundrie not asking publicly for help to find their son, not having that emotional press conference, asking the public, please help us find Brian. That was unexpected. Cassie Laundrie coming out of her home to confront demonstrators and then doing interviews, and she's the only one within the family that has been vocal. That too, unexpected. The report that came out that they went camping and had s'mores days after Brian Laundrie returned home from the cross-country trip. How weird and unexpected was that? Chris Laundrie joining in the search recently and going to Carlton Reserve and being there for about 2 to 3 hours. That was also unexpected. And now, so I'm thinking about this last night. Again, I'm chopping carrots, if you can picture that in my kitchen, and yet another just unexpected turn of events here. Expect the unexpected with this story, which is why we have no idea really what we're gonna learn here in this press conference from Dr. Brent Blue here live via Zoom here in moments.
I think what you mentioned, JB, to our earlier audience, now getting more viewers here on Facebook, you've had some communication with the family, and this will not be a surprise for her parents. I think that is an important thing to mention, JB, that the family has been notified before Dr. Brent Blue goes public. Whatever findings he will release to us today. So I did want to mention that to our new viewers here as we count down just about 2 minutes away from this highly anticipated Zoom news conference with the coroner from Teton County, Wyoming. But yeah, JB, it's been really... We spent a lot of time the last few weeks kind of piecing together this timeline, not just leading up to the 27th when Gabby was last seen, but also that 11-day window, JB, between the 1st and the 11th. Like you mentioned, that camping trip that has drawn a lot of scrutiny. Who knew what when? As I've told you before, I went knocking on Cassie Laundrie's door a few weeks ago, and she did not come out to talk to me, but she came out because she was just sick of the protesters, and she's talked about a kind of a fracture in her family, that she's not even talking to her parents there, and the family attorney, Mr. Bertolino, has said that he doesn't represent her, and she's come out, like you said way more than the parents have said publicly. So a lot of unexpected twists and turn here, but this will really be, from a medical perspective, hopefully some answers today. Difficult news to process. It might be hard for some of you at home to hear, exactly what they tell us, what he might tell us happened to her. But again, all eyes on this news conference today as the coroner will come out and provide more information about the autopsy of this 22-year-old woman who by now the world knows her name after sadly she vanished and her body was located in that forest in Wyoming.
So I want to repeat this because we've now, I think, tripled our audience here, and I want to make sure that everybody is aware of this. So of course, by now people know that I've been in contact with Gabby Petito's family. This is not going to be new news to them. They're not going to be watching this and learning like the rest of the world. This is, of course, and that's not unexpected. That's not unexpected. Law enforcement, of course, doing okay. Let's hashtag Hey JB, hashtag Hey Justin. We'll come back here after this press conference. We'll come back here live.
In progress.
They're about to unmute. We'll watch for your hashtag Hey JB, hashtag Hey Justin comments here, and we'll have your reaction and discuss how this impacts Gabby Petito, Brian Laundrie going forward here live on WFLA Now after the Teton County press conference here gets concluded. As of right now here, folks, we understand this is Dr. Brent Blue. If you look right there in the bottom left-hand portion of your screen, you will see that mute icon. People who are very Zoom savvy know that he has not unmuted himself here yet. So perhaps waiting just another moment here, but when he and I think he's now going to be muted or unmuting himself here in a moment. And you'll see some of the chat come in here as well. This is, again, just a raw Zoom call, but really, again, we're all listening here for the autopsy.
Thank you all for joining us. I am Dr. Brent Blue, Teton County, Wyoming coroner. After a detailed investigation by our forensic pathologist, our anthropologist, and local law enforcement, with assistance from the FBI, the Teton County Coroner Office is filing the following verdict in the death of Gabrielle Lenora Petito. We hereby find the cause and manner of death to be the cause, death by strangulation, and manner is homicide. By Wyoming state statute, no other information will be released about the autopsy. The only thing that is released in the state of Wyoming is cause and manner of death.
I think they said they can't hear you. Just 1 second.
Should I start over then? Sure. Thank you for joining us. Sorry about the audio issue. I'm Dr. Brent Blue, Teton County, Wyoming coroner. After a detailed investigation by our forensic pathologist, our anthropologist, and local law enforcement, with assistance from the FBI, the Teton County Coroner's Office is filing the following verdict. In the manner of death of Gabrielle Lenora Petito, we find the cause and manner to be cause, death by strangulation, and manner is homicide. By Wyoming state statute, only the cause and manner of death are released. Their autopsy findings and photographs and that sort of material is not released by state statute. And I'll be glad to entertain some questions at this time.
Hi, Brian. This is Alex with the News and Guide. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm curious whether you're able to pinpoint a date of death and when, and if you know whether or when Gabby's remains will be returned to her family.
The remains have been returned to the mortuary here, and the mortuary is dealing with the family at this time as far as the disposition of the remains. As far as the time of death, we are estimating 3 to 4 weeks from the time that the body was found. That is actually determined more by law enforcement first than than our office.
Chris, Vivian, you are able to ask your question.
What's the question? I didn't hear a question.
Chris, I believe that you are muted. If you can unmute yourself.
Okay, it's John Walsh from In Pursuit with John Walsh on Discovery ID. Dr. Blue, thank you for your time. I think everybody in the world believes that Brian Laundrie killed Gabby. With your extensive work on the body, are you sure that it's Brian Laundrie? And will the FBI issue a nationwide homicide warrant now that they know the cause of death?
We are only tasked with the determination of cause and manner of death. Who committed the homicide is up to law enforcement, and I cannot answer the question about the FBI. You would have to contact them.
Jeremy Kopis, you are now allowed to ask your question.
Yes, hello, doctor. If you could please, can you comment on any other bruising, maybe on the body that possibly was healing, possibly older bruises or cuts that might have been healing over the last couple of weeks before her passing?
By Wyoming state statute, no other information about the autopsy is released, just the cause of death.
Hi there, this is Heather Lee, a reporter at ABC Action News in Tampa, Florida. I just wanted to know if you could explain why it took about a month for this process to finish. I think a lot of people were hoping that they would learn this information sooner. So I just think if you could just explain the process and why it took a month.
Well, the main reason was that we were very exacting in our examination and the detail by which that examination was done. We were waiting for various specialists to come in and help us with this investigation. We were waiting on toxicology to be returned, and it was just a matter of making sure we had everything right.
Thank you.
Is there another question?
Brian Enton, I believe you're unmuted right now. Okay. Steve Fabian.
Yes, hi, doctor. How are you? I am curious if any DNA samples were taken from Gabby's remains, and also if the body was intact, are you able to tell us the condition of Gabby's remains?
I can tell you the DNA samples were taken by law enforcement, and all I can tell you about remains is that the body was outside for 3 to 4 weeks.
Chris, Vivian, do you have your hand up?